Hey guys, what's up? It's Isaac Landis, Isaac Adopted, and welcome to my channel. It's been a little bit since I made videos. I've been going through some stuff, work, and taking some time off and all that stuff. But it's no excuses. This video, I talked a lot about adopted, being adopted, and I actually a couple weeks ago I had a guest on, Eli, which she's expected to come back and all that, and have other people. And I was thinking, I was like, how many people in the world are adopted? And I was wondering, like, because I remember my parents were saying before that there wasn't many people being adopted at the time I was born in 1990. And especially they said, being African American, going to a Caucasian household. Um, so today I was actually on a website, America Adoption, and I kind of wanted to go through. It says our general U.S. Adoption statistics, and I was looking at it, and I'm like thinking, like, wow, is there more people nowadays getting adopted more than anything? And I have my views on stuff where a lot of people are being adopted, and it could be a whole bunch of reasons. People that don't want the kid instead of you know having to like abort them, which I don't. In my personal belief, I think it's better to at least give the baby up for adoption, give the baby a fighting chance. So maybe that might be certain things on YouTube that might not be the popular thing, and but it's just mine because and I'm going to have that kind of view because my birth mom didn't give up on me. She in a way she was like, I better give them off. But at least I got given off to somebody instead of just you know, being aborted. So I actually appreciate that I have a chance at life and that I got to. So over here, I'm going to scroll. Birth parents and statistics. Okay, where's this up at? Yeah, America adoptions. Okay. And we're looking. Oh, I should have this set up. Sorry, guys. Adoption. Okay. Okay. This is other general U.S. adoption statistics. As mentioned, uh, having the right for facts about adoption will make all the differences. While personal stories and uh, senders can help, sorry guys, can be helpful. They can also be narrow in scope. Talking with an adoption professional, like an American Adoptions, will help you learn more about this journey ahead. As you continue your research, keep these adoption rates and statistics in mind. Excuse me. In 2007, the breakdown of adoption children in the United States was as so private. Well, private domestics was only 67,000 million, 670 million, or 7,000, 38%, and then foster care was 661,000, which was 37%, and international adoptions were 440,000, 25%. 62% of children adopted privately are placed with the adopted family when they are newborns or less than 1 year old. 21% of private adoptions are transferred from transactional what transfer transracial from 1999 to 2011. The portion of adopted children being raised by a mother of a different race or ethnic group, increased 50%. Um, yeah, I think that's you kind of see that a lot. There's actually somebody else on here that I seen browsing through YouTube that it's like you see a lot of adopted people. You always think like, hey, like we can't have a kid or we can have a kid, and you see like the people like I'm gonna go out and adopt like a different race. I feel like that's kind of more. And I always seen people like, for instance, like when I go to church, it's like they do like missionary work for like other countries. So like other countries, unfortunately, could be at more unfortunate. So I see like a lot of people trying to like would have that, and I had a couple girls, like when my ex was like, hey, I rather would have someone adopt like a mixed baby, because it's like, and the people that adopt, some parents and people will love them, and there's also some people that just do it just for the money. And I'm so grateful that my parents never got into anything like, oh, it's all about the money or anything like that. Um, the thing about it, I was never in foster care, so I was adopted straight up, pretty much right after birth. So if it was like 4 days old, and yeah, so I think that's pretty. It's pretty unique that a lot of, and that's 21%. That transracial, which means, I guess, from like everybody coming from like that difference of that ethnic group or racial. And yeah, 88% of adopted parents describe themselves as happy couples, while 83% of non-adopted parents describe themselves as happy couples. So either way, if you're, have a kid yourself, which I don't have any, but I have like 15 nieces and nephews, and I see how my sisters react with their kids, see how my parents react with me. So, if someone that's like a big thing, it's like, oh, you have kids, it's like, see how much you relate. It's like, oh, I created this or not. And there was someone that I was talking on like a show or something. They were saying about like what the difference if you're adopt a kid or birth a kid, that someone was arguing that they were going to say that the mother will probably love the one more that she carried in the womb the most than more. Now, I'm not going to ask my parents, like, oh, do you love my sisters more than me and my brother, because they carried. I know for a fact they love us all equal. um, growing up in a Christian, background, and them going by that as their spiritual belief, and how God's pretty much loving with everybody. So I look at it like, even though like I didn't birth out of my my parents, now I'm sure they're not going to love me less. The difference is that connection with inner in the womb when the pregnancy's happening. I might not have had that with my parents now, and then because I guess women will go through that, and that's why I was still, my birth mom was so like upset. She didn't want to have to give me up, but she was saying that's what was best. um, I'm still also looking for to actually get in contact with her. I still haven't come across on Facebook or anything else to find her, if she's even alive or not. So I think she'd be now still be in like her early 50s, mid 50s at that time. Like now, from when she adopted me, she was only like 24. From what my parents said. Um, Sorry guys, I'm trying through stuff. The allergies and the weather makes me my asthma bad and all that stuff too. Um, so I'm still trying to figure out like what best way I could use to find like my birth mom and all that. So I could look the name up and probably actually type in the state if she would have left, and the paper trail of the adoption agency, which would really give a signature, which would have been a name, her name and where she was going. But when she was doing the stuff at the adoption agency, she already been, the address she was at was, which was like outside of around Philly, but she'd been since moved since I was like way home then. So because they were keeping contact with my parents, and she was just like I said in my last video, who'll have Isaac look me up when he's 18. You know, um, obviously I'm 31, and it kind of been past the time I could have did that right off the bat. Uh, and then my parents, even about that, they weren't like also like saying that, well, you're not gonna feel some type of way. Like, go ahead, look her up, ask questions. Like, you can do that. Like, we'll love you no matter what. Like, we raised you, and and that's the thing. Like, being raised by like just because I was birthed out of like my birth mom, I think her name was Margita. Like, yeah, that's like like the donor. Like, that's where I was just in her womb. But like my parents now like raised me. They did all the tough work, so that is most likely made the parenting stuff. Even when I got caught like riding the 4 wheeler on the road and had the fine, and I was paying for stuff from before, like my parents keeping me in line, like when I would act out or bad grades in school. So like that's or I'm sick, asthma, hospital. That's all the parenting stuff is. from that, just because I'm not the same race or the same blood type or DNA from my parents now. Like that's my parents. Um, because anybody can be the donor, but the parent takes a different whole type of skill and passionate, loving, caring, sacrifice. It's a big sacrifice having a kid. You got to sacrifice your stuff. Moving on. Okay. Sorry about my reading, guys. Some of these words are pretty. Educational adoption certificates. Let's read this. While it's not a requirement to adopt through our agency, which this is the America Adoption Agency, more than 95% of American adoptions adopt families have a high school education, and more than 90% have bachelor's degrees. Nationally, adopted parents have at least high school diploma or education, and 79% of private domestic adoptions, while higher education is not necessary, a guarantee of a better parenting. These statistics show that many adopted parents value education and will be more likely to provide the opportunity for higher education for their children. Now, like, see, me in school, like, I always looked at it like, I did, I graduated, I did my thing in school, some, grades between like C plus, B plus, B minus, and between that. Now it's the same about the education. Like my dad was actually a school teacher at a Souderton High School in the other county, Bucks County, and he did that for like 30 something years, 35 years, and he actually retired back in 2008. And I remember people would say like, "Oh, your dad's a science teacher. I'm sure you get decent grades in science." And which decently I did. I looked at it like hearing him like talk about science stuff and like the solar system like during dinner. So I would like remember all that like dinner time talk. We're talking about the stars and like it's solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, and all that stuff, and like the weather and the periodic table, and and some of the math stuff, which I wasn't really a big fan of math, but so like thinking that like my dad was a teacher, would I want to do something like that? No, not really. I wouldn't want to really teach in like a school setting. Now, if I know something like that's like knowledgeable, if someone needs help, needs to learn something, like I'll definitely teach in something like that. So I think it's pretty much almost saying it's like, oh, if you follow what your parents would do, like that's what always people are going to say, like, oh, I want to do what my dad does. My dad was a fireman or a policeman. I want to follow in his footsteps. And I always looked at it like, well, dang, I can kind of relate to that because like my dad's a teacher, but I don't want to go back to school for nothing like that to be a teacher. And I'm thinking like, because people like I said, want to follow like what their parents do. And I look at it now, it's like, I work at the scrapyard, I do machinery, and my dad did a lot of side stuff in the back, like like from delivering like car parts, a lot of stuff like farming stuff, actually landscape, horticulture stuff, and planting. And I would think he did a lot of side jobs. And it's funny because even though that wasn't like his main occupation, I still picked up on them kind of traits. So when we were younger, we'd have like the neighbors would like have these animals, these farm animals next door. So we did like a lot of baling hay, planting corn, beans, fruits for all them, hay, and I always that's and he was taught me like I taught my when I was watching him like cut the grass. I was like 6, 7 years old. I remember I hopped on the tractor one morning and started cutting the grass, and I was just like, wow, it's like I actually like doing like heavy equipment stuff, and I deal with that stuff at work. So even going off of what this was saying, it's like okay, it's like maybe we'll I'll most likely like if they have a good degree, even though it's saying here it's like okay, they're more likely to be in a decent home or there's some that they have a degree, but I didn't follow them footsteps of that at all besides like doing the heavy equipment stuff. And yeah, I just didn't want to ever be a teacher, but science is pretty cool, I think. um which one's this? Homes and neighbors, adoption statistics. So what to talk about? Almost half of privately adopted children are the only child living in the house. Yeah, it's me and my brother. He was adopted from a different set of parents, his biological parents. Um, I was like 4 when my brother was adopted. Adopted children are more likely to live in neighborhoods that are safe, that have amenities, and in good physical condition. Then are not and non-adopted children. Then are non-adopted children. 90% of adopted children live in households with income above poverty line. So it's kind of true. Then I guess I wouldn't say I was. My parents are like super rich. Now if I was like, oh, let me get money to go buy this. I mean, I'm an adult. I should be, buy my own things and stuff. But I would say we lived a decent, middle class life. We know that these adoption facts only tell a small part of a story. Adoption is a big deal, but we're here to help you choose the path that's right for you. To learn more about statistics of adoption, to start the adoption process with our agency, please contact American Adoption Today. That's kind of weird how they just ended that like that. I'm just thinking it's like if this is all about like a statistics with stuff, or like saying like people have a stigma, it's like, oh, if you're adopted, you're gonna be pretty much um better than what you were. Now, if you're getting pretty much for adoption, like there's could be all kinds of reasons, like where that living condition with that person might not be suitable to have a kid, or if they went to jail or doing drugs and they got CYS involved, like they can't have a kid. Um, it almost looks like if it's like you're being adopted because it's something negative, which probably most times, which the number is saying, it's could be something negative. They're in the foster care, or if it's like domestic violence, or international. So like private domestic, like I said, it was like 677,000, and that's like 30%. And for things to be going on that they got to get their kid taken out, or if they're in foster care, like they pretty much the situation they're in, they're going to be going to like another situation that's possibly better. You look at it, if you're having kids, you're pretty much going to be adopting a kid. You're pretty much going to have that set up to like, okay, we're having a kid. You still have to be financially decent to support a family, and I want to get my my mom's take on the adoption, what my mom thought about it and how she went about it. But I'll share real quickly a little bit about that. Is that I have 3 sisters. I actually have an older brother that actually died. He was adopted from Argentina, Joey, and then me, because I think Joey was a couple years older than me. I think like 6 or 7 years older than me, and but he did pass away due to like lung issues and he had like back problems. But that's another story. And my parents had 3 sisters, so which was biologically theirs. So I'm thinking what happened was I think my mom had like a miscarriage and she couldn't produce with her eggs to have kids, and so she was like, oh, what should I do? What should I do? And I guess my dad, my mom talked about it and said, oh, you know what? I think it'd be a great idea to adopt. And that was, I think that actually happened with my last. So that happened with my brother, with my older brother that passed, and then I think she got pregnant, then had another miscarriage, and then decided like, I'm just going to adopt. Adopt. So I think there was a couple. Um, I'll have her tell her side on the story when that comes to light, when I bring her on here. And I guess that is the rest of that. Send request information. Yeah, so other than that, yeah, I've been trying to set up stuff, with me, to have people come on, because I think some people did like seeing me like bring people and having what their experiences. There was this male improvement podcast I was watching, shout out to Fresh and Fit. Um, but I actually wrote a super chat and I said, hey, actually do a YouTube about adoption, and it's like, oh wow, because like they saw my name, Isaac Landis Adopted, and they're like, well, that's a different niche. Um, with the niches of like, this is what I'm doing, for, you guys. I know they say YouTube is about for your audience to like learn something, put something on YouTube, someone needs to know something to like type up. And I kind of look at this like, hey, if there's like a kid out there or someone that goes out there, it's like, what do I do? Like me being adopted, and how you feel? It's like they can see these videos. Um, this is something more like a blog of me, and so excuse me. I'm going to be bringing more stuff to it. I need to put more stuff out. I kind of been a little lax back. I'm like, oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. But to make this like a serious hobby slash seeing how YouTube is, I kind of want to get some content out for people to look. But I do want to get my mom on here for sure. I might have a friend of a roommate that might want to actually, maybe I'll do that. Maybe it's later tonight. Other than that, I've been good. So still doing my life things, and yeah. So if anybody has any questions, they can hit me up at on the super chat or the chat comment. Um, Isaac Landis, ISAACLANDES is my Facebook, and then the same thing, Isaac Landis 007 for Instagram. Yeah, so I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will be coming back with a guest next video, next two videos, and yeah, you guys have a great day. This is Isaac Landis, Isaac Adopted, Adoption Talks. Have a good day.